Well, we're live and happy to see you guys again.
Yeah, happy Friday and happy November 18th. We are closing in on the end of the year. And so I think just dropping a quick little couple nuggets on if they're under 5K. If you're a therapist, licensed professional, and you're under $5,000, maybe what you should be looking at, what you should consider.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah.
you're probably in one of three situations. Either A, you're just starting or about to just start your therapy practice headed into 2023. So you're not making a lot of revenue yet. You're trying to get there for the very first time, right? Or you're in another camp, whether it's from the holidays or the process, you're on this little roller coaster and you're doing around or you're doing less and like you're going up and down in and throughout that 5K, right? Or you are far past that 5K and you're like, I want to add another 5K to my therapy practice. Maybe we'll get one nugget for those people at the end. But primarily, these are for the people who they don't have a full caseload, under 5K a month, cash pay or insurance doesn't matter. It's obvious that you don't have a full caseload or close to it if you're doing less than this a month. So we just want to speak in a little bit to what should you be focusing on and what can you be doing in the next 6 weeks, even the next 8 weeks, to hit that revenue level or beyond.
Yeah, so the first thing that I think of overwhelmingly, guys, we work with almost 200 counselors, in our private coaching program this year, and overwhelmingly, I think the people who are under 5K tend to massively overcomplicate their practice and massively overcomplicate the things um, that they're doing in order to build and grow themselves. And when it comes to overcomplicating, I mean just doing everything, just doing any and everything, throwing the kitchen sink at it. You heard that you had to do social media, so you're doing social media, or you're paying someone to do a post a day or something, or you're overextending yourself on buying a location because you think the location is the key to, breaking your new revenue levels, or you have massive uncertainty when it comes to what to offer the market that you're working with, and so you're just offering everything or trying to do everything or trying to recruit or trying to I think the number one thing is get massively clear on what it is that you need to do, and then be very, very specific with your actions. You only need one channel for marketing. You only need one product. You don't need a bunch of extra people or virtual assistants or admins or anything like that until you're at a much higher level of cash. You don't need to worry about doing like 3 to 5 things for your marketing. Maybe you just need to do 1 or 2 things well. And then offer your single service. Stop trying to open up a group. Stop trying to do an extra coaching program. Stop trying to do the content and the course and like, guys. There's a time and place for that. It's not right now. So all this to say is, find that one thing, and if it's not working for you, stop trying to do something else. Just do it better. Just find a way to do it better. So simplify and do better. I guess I'm coming out the gate swinging, Josh. I'll let you.
No, it's great. Some of the best tasting bread in the world um, is two or three ingredients. It's water, it's flour, and sometimes it's a little bit of yeast. You put it in the oven, and you end up with something really delicious. Now there are plenty of variations. The complexities only go up from there. But if you don't know how to bake, if you aren't reaching your goals, if you don't have the revenue, this is what you need to hear, and this is what Attilio just said. You are making a simple bread loaf on that 0 to 5K, and really that 0 to like 7 or 8K for sure, pretty much, right? You're baking a very simple loaf. You can get there with one channel to set appointments from, to get inquiries from. You can do that with one sales mechanism, like one product, one core script, and you can do that with one fulfillment venue, one-on-one 45-minute therapy sessions or, whatever it is. And if we add a bunch of things and we're saying, I want to use all these other ingredients too, that's great, but we have to know how to bake something from start to finish, reach our first goal so we earn the right We earn the bandwidth and we earn the skill needed to go do the other things.
I
What
think what's go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna lead into another question, so go for it.
Yeah, all I was going to mention was when it comes to kind of this like baking the bread the first time, guys. We just want to make sure we're not like burning it, right? So we just want to make sure we're not burning the bread, or that it's coming out, a little crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, but not like too crispy on the outside. So like, is the temperature right? Are we keeping it in the oven for long enough? Are we pulling it out of the oven and able to serve it to people in a good amount of time, or is it just sitting there on the shelf for too long? Are people wanting to come back for more of the bread? Whatever the situation is, however the analogy kind of breaks down, there's a lot to just like the simple baking the loaf of bread, but we just want to make sure that we're good at it. And kind of to look at this another way too, some of you have probably seen some of our content at this point. We talk a lot about ads. We talk a lot about like sales, like salesmanship, high value sales process. We're not advocating for any specific way to maybe make this bread, right? Like there's different kinds of flour, there's different kinds of, however, you can kind of like find your path to making it and find something unique. Like along all these bread products, there's like tortillas, there's biscuits, there's like, if you look at it that way, there's plenty of different bread-like products that all basically use the same ingredients, maybe have a slightly different cook process, but they all turn into something delicious either way. And so focus and finding the simplicity is really the key, and then just getting good at that thing.
We've said this before and we'll say it again, there are certainly more advantageous channels to market your practice and generate new business, right? Doing super expensive, obscure magazine ads are not going to be as effective as even a listing site, or sometimes as a paid ad, right? And then you have your skill level needed. But what it boils down to, whether it's the listing site strategies, or it's the networking strategies, or it's the paid ad strategies, or the social strategies, we know, or it's the insurance panel strategies, right? I could list them all, but we know practices that we've personally worked with that they said, this is my strategy. They chose one strategy and they took it to its max. They took it to its fullest, complete, top line ability to get stuff out of the platform. And for many of our practices, that means their practice was full, right? They took social media to the end of what it could do for them, and their practice is full, right? And they didn't really think or care about any other ways to market their practice other than using social media. Or they took listing sites to the end. They built 20 different profiles. They got on a ton of different platforms, 20 different platforms. They wrote 4 or 5 different profiles, and like they did the strategy. Same with ads, right? They went all in on ads and they did just ads. So, to get pragmatic with this, if you're trying to go from 0 to 5K for the first time, or you haven't seen sustainability in your practice, you don't need to overcomplicate it. So a couple of suggestions: websites are huge, giant time sucks and time dumps in your early days as a therapist, right? That is a pitfall or a sand pit, so to speak, a time quicksand of emotional energy that we typically suggest new practices avoid. So that's one of those, like, you could get clients from that and using strategies to get traffic to your website, but the barrier to entry is really high on that one typically. So there are some other ways to get you there.
Yeah, earlier this week I did a big auditing exercise, like time audit. If you guys are watching this, I'd encourage you to do a quick little time audit. When it comes to being under 5K, cash is not our asset. We do not have cash, so time is our asset. Okay, time is our most valuable thing that we have right now, being under 5K. And so we don't have a bunch of money that we can spend on virtual assistants or administrators or people to help us with our marketing or building our caseload or even credentialing CEUs, etc. Like, we don't have just like money, right? We don't have money as an asset or money as a resource that we can use to fuel something. And so time time is what needs to be audited on. Time is what needs to be looked at. And one, yes, simplifying the activities that we're doing, reducing the complexities, just getting better at what is working is a great way to look at or improve timeliness and time use. But also just taking the time to write down the way that we do this inside of our program is we have sort of like a grid on a worksheet that essentially like you break it down into a few buckets. You say, what is my marketing bucket? What are my activities that I spend on marketing? How many hours a week do I spend on this activity or on these activities? What are the activities I do on sales? How many hours am I actually spending per week on those activities? What are my activities doing actual fulfillment and actual like client work, right? And then finally, the last bucket is administration or like support, like customer support, extra little things that you kind of do for your practice. Look at your time, look at the hour breakdown, and see what kinds of things you can just, quite frankly, cross off the list. Because there's probably a hidden like 2 to 6 hours a day. I did an audit on a clinician, and she had 6 hours hidden away in her days, which is like insane, guys. That's a whopping 30 hours a week, right? That are just like hidden away in your schedule doing things that just don't matter, or aren't going to push the needle forward, or you can't put in the amount of time to make it reach a critical mass in a respectable amount of time. And so why even do that activity right now? And so there's a lot of things that just like, as you're kind of looking at your time, as you're kind of auditing, what kinds of things can you cross off? What kinds of things can you realistically say, like, is this even going to move the needle? Is this even going to budge? Is this like a nice to have kind of thing? As we're kind of staring down the prospect of a recession, a massive recession coming, what things are need to have and what things are like nice to have, or what things are need to have that aren't really need to have anymore. And so like, how can we focus and drill in and create bigger consistency and a better system really for our practice, for us, so that we're getting win-wins, and for our clients so that they are getting win-wins.
100%. I don't know if I have too much more to add to that. There's a lot of other content in our group and in other places that will drill more pragmatically into client acquisition or marketing. So, go pursue some of those out. But if you're doing less than 5K a month, you keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing for you right now is generating more inquiries for your business. So you can book those appointments and do that in a single channel fashion. So I hope that helps. Anything last to add here, Tilio?
Want to drop a nugget for the people? What did you say? The 5K.
For the people who want to add an additional 5K to their practice. I got this situation today. If you're capped out in terms of like you're doing your 20 hours a week, right? You're full, you're sustainable. You literally have 2 options if you want to make more money. And these are the same 2 options any business has. You can either charge more for your service, or you can add in a secondary product. So if you want to make more money and you're full, you either have to charge more or you have to add in a secondary service. In the therapy space, that could look like it's time for coaching, or that could look like it's time for a weekend retreat, or that could look like it's time for a course. Or that could look like it's time for a clinician under you, right? Another product, another service to expand it. But the game changes a little bit when you go and make that transition. But yeah, go ahead.
I want to clarify, guys. This is not, if I do 2 things, I can add an extra 5K. That is not what he just said. This is, you're full, you're maxed out, and you need to now do something else that maybe isn't time dependent, or is less time dependent than your one-on-one sessions, because there's a whole level of new problems, a whole level of new things that you have to crack the code on and figure out to like, quote unquote, add that extra 5K. It's not just like, this is the tale as old as time that we see here working with therapists, is like, well, I do this community, I have these group sessions that I try to push. I also have my one-on-one sessions. I'm also recruiting. I'm also doing blah, blah, blah. And guess what? Where it leads you? It leaves you doing mediocre across the board, in trouble, in hot water, having to deal with 40 administrative nightmares. Don't try to make more by just adding more. It's you have to create leverage at a certain point so that you can actually tackle another problem.
Yeah.
So
100%.
thanks, Josh. That was good.
Passive income is only passive after a rather large amount of work invested, right? So don't think that passive income comes from working on something passively.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it.
It costs something. We'll see you guys Monday. And if you don't see us,